Woke up late and planned to go to my boyfriend's house and help him clean out his truck that they were getting ready to sell. And then after we cleaned it out, he was going to go to work and I was going to wait at his house and then go to work myself. I got a couple calls from my grandma. I didn't hear my phone go off the first time, so the second time it went off, I knew something must have been wrong because my grandma never calls multiple times unless she really needs something.
I had been at my boyfriend's house. I was actually sitting there. He had left for work already, and I was finishing up getting ready. I didn't have to be there for like 15 minutes, but there wasn't any reason to go back to my house, which was a little farther away, and then come back. So I just waited there with his dad and his sister. And I heard my phone ring once. The first time I wasn't super worried about it. I was getting ready. There wasn't any need to like rush to my phone. But when it started ringing several times after that, I was like, well, something must be going on. So I went over and grabbed it. And it was my grandma. She was frantic, but that wasn't really anything new. She was already that overprotective parent. So I was like, okay, what's going on? And she said, well, we haven't heard from Libby. She's not answering your phone. Your dad's there to pick her up. He's looked everywhere. He can't find them. And I'm like, okay, I'm sure it's nothing. I'm sure they're just lost or their phone died. I'll be there in 10 minutes to like help search. So at that point, I called work and said, hey, my sister's missing. I can't come in. I have to help search for her. It's more important than making $7.25 an hour. So I ran back, got in my car, and went down to High Bridge, where my grandma and Tara and my dad were at. We started walking the trail to see if we could find them. At that point, we weren't super worried. Like, my grandma was freaking out, but the rest of us were like, it's going to be fine. I'm sure they just fell or their phone died and they're off adventuring in the woods somewhere and we're going to find them. They just like broke their leg or something normal happened and it's going to be all right. So we went searching. We didn't see them anywhere where I thought they would be. We didn't see them on the other side of the bridge, on the like driveway over there. So we just kept searching. We're like, they have to be here somewhere. So we kept yelling their name. Eventually me and my uncle went back across the bridge and told my grandparents they weren't anywhere. We didn't see them anywhere. So they ended up calling the police. And that night we were in the police station for a long time. Search parties were all over. There was social media posts. Everybody was out looking for them and trying to figure out where they were, what had happened. But it wasn't until the next day that we knew what happened.
So I started looking. We were all looking. Cody and Kelsey went across the bridge. Mike showed up. I'll let you tell his part because I don't know all of his.
Well, yeah, obviously when I showed up, I started walking on the trails, located Becky, other family members, and we were all just trying to split up, go different directions and hollering, looking. Of course, by the time I got there, it's a half-hour drive or so from Lafayette, so it was 4:30. I spent a half an hour. Becky, by this time, was on the phone, I believe, with AT&T, trying to get them to ping her phone, and she just told me, she goes, honey, it's going to get dark soon. We should call the police. So I went back up to the top of the trailhead where I was parked and called the sheriff's station, actually, is what I did, dialed in direct. And just said, hey, here's the situation. I got back out of my truck and walked down through the trail and headed up towards the Freedom Bridge. And by that time, there was 2 officers walking across. They were already out there. I mean, as soon as I called, they must have radioed out, and 2 officers come up and asked if I'd seen anything. I said, no, they hadn't seen anything. I said, well, let's continue to fan out and look. I said, they're, obviously somewhere. And at this time, somewhere through that, they called us up to the police station because it was starting to get dark. And so we went up there. Once we got there, of course, they're collecting as much information as they can, and then they wanted any electronic devices. So Kelsey was there. Kelsey and I came back to the house to actually gather anything, a laptop or, if there was a tablet of any sort, all the electronic devices, we took them in so they could comb through them. And somewhere in the midst of this, obviously, it had hit Facebook and social media, and there was all kinds of people starting to come out throughout the town because it's dark.
I grew up in a place where they told you what to chase, told you how to run the race, every move was on the page, but I didn't like their way, had to fight and misbehave.